Hey gang, greetings to you. I trust this finds you well. All is well with me. You know, they keep coming with new theories or reasons as to why we should not vote for the African National Congress. President Thabo Mbeki, in his articulate speech given at Unisa a few days ago, clearly gave us reasons that even if you were confused about who you are going to vote for, you certainly should not vote for the African National Congress. Listen to him and then my analysis thereafter.
And I'm quite sure all of us have read the Zondo Commission report. The Zondo Commission report, among its conclusions on the SARS matter, says one of the people who played a leading role in the effort to destroy SARS was the President of the Republic of South Africa. That's a strange conclusion. Fortunately, I was not president at the time. The Zondo Commission says, in terms of all of the evidence that we've received, one of the things that stands out is that the President of the Republic made certain that he was one of the leading people in terms of the SARS processes and in terms of the ESCOM processes. It's in the Zondo Commission report, it's in the public domain. And yet again, we have this strange phenomenon. Comrade President, that what I'm now saying about what the Zondo Commission says about who was responsible for this attempt to destroy SARS includes the President of the Republic. That is new news. It isn't. And of course, you know who the President was. And it says so in black and white, Jacob Zuma was part of the leadership in the process of destroying SARS. That's not my opinion. I'm telling you what the Zondo Commission says. I'm telling you what the Zondo Commission says. Now that's a bit of a conundrum. That you would have the President of the Republic of South Africa participating in a process to destroy the institution that gives him the means to govern. That's a kind of contradiction. It's a contradiction that then raises a question. Who indeed is this president? Because there is no way you are going to be able to square the circle that the President of the Republic of South Africa acts to destroy the South African Revenue Service.
He just said to square the circle.
Either the Zondo Commission is entirely wrong, or we are dealing with somebody who is entirely wrong. I'm saying, colleagues, that I think this is part of the process of the understanding of what Andres describes as age 1 and age 2. And what happens during these two ages, which are opposite to each other. I think many of us in the room are, perhaps with the exception of the panelists, are old enough to remember when we first had our first national power cut when the country went blank because of ESCOM, what is called load shedding, the national.
So basically, President Mbeki is taking the country through what really has happened during the past 15 years of President Zuma and President Ramaphosa. But for me, as a South African, I'm aggrieved that President Mbeki is raising these issues now because, as he rightfully pointed out, the Zondo Commission report has been there for more than 2 years. The Nugent Commission report has been there for 6 years, to be precise, to which he keeps on making reference. And the Nugent Commission report clearly states that the president, that is President Zuma, was directly involved in the mismanagement and the misgovernance, or rather poor governance, of what took place at SARS, right? That President Zuma, through his appointments of Moyane, had it clearly intended to destroy SARS from within. It becomes evident. Now, my main problem is President Mbeki was here all along. Why was he quiet about it? Because you see, this thing, to me, goes back to what happened in Polokwane and subsequently President Mbeki resigning. Instead of pursuing as a president the sending of Jacob Zuma to jail then, as to prevent the catastrophe that he as Mbeki had predicted would happen. Because remember, Mbeki said in Polokwane, if you vote for Jacob Zuma to become a president, you will have anarchy in this country. So this chaos, this anarchy we have had all these years, Mbeki had predicted, he had foretold it. Now there is a court in Maritzburg that said Zuma's charges were politically motivated. But what many people do not know is that that court's judgment was set aside within a period of 6 months from it being made public by a higher court. After Mbeki had resigned, he pursued this matter and he won it. But the problem that I have with that is he is pursuing this in his personal capacity. He's not pursuing it as a president of the republic to prevent a criminal from becoming a president and ascending to become a president. Well, the criminal did ascend and become a president. And now what happened? Now, you remember Nugent made the following statement. I reported in my interim report that was brought about by at least reckless mismanagement on the part of Mr. Moyane. We have had much evidence since then. What has become clear is that what occurred at SARS was inevitable the moment Mr. Moyane set foot in SARS. He arrived without integrity and then dismantled the elements of governance one by one. This was more than mere mismanagement. It was seizing of control of SARS as it was his to have. Now, he arrived without integrity. That's a description of Moyane, but that exact description of Jacob Zuma. The man has no shame. And for me, it's rather amazing that so many youths and South Africans are taken, or rather, what's the best way to say? Oh, they are following this man. It's no different than the boy in Red Beret, right? He has amassed so much support. This talks centrally to the moral decay of this country and also the lack of education of the masses of our people. How can they associate themselves with somebody who sought to destroy the very democracy that we fought so hard for during apartheid? Now, some people may say, no, it's not true that Jacob Zuma sought to destroy the democracy. Well, it's pretty clear in the Nugent report that he sought to destroy SARS, and SARS is a collector of revenue. 95 to 98% of states' revenue is collected by SARS. And if you destroy SARS, there would be no state. So that person was clearly trying to destroy South Africa as we know it. That is, as Mbeki is putting it here, that person was unhappy with the democratic dispensation, whoever that person was. And it so happened that Zondo agrees with Nugent, because Zondo took this to his own level of his own investigation, and he agrees with Nugent. And he goes to town to explain in his report that the President of the Republic of South Africa made it his business to destroy SARS. This guy is mind-blowing. And that guy has now formed an MK party. The only thing I'm reasonably thankful for him about forming an MK party is that he has created a splinter group away from the ANC, which hopefully will take enough votes so that the ANC doesn't become a ruling party in this country, because they are corrupt to the core. This is another reason why we should not vote for the African National Congress, because its leaders, President Mbeki, is coming out gun blazing to say all the things that he was saying in this presentation simply because now Zuma has formed a political party, right? He's not criticizing Zuma for all of these things, or rather, let me put it this way. He didn't criticize Zuma for all of these things when he was the president of the ANC and the president of the country. No, he was quiet. He exercised quiet diplomacy. Instead, he focused on foreign countries and so on and so forth. And that, to me, says a lot about what is important to these comrades of the ANC. It's the ANC's survival and hold on power that is important to them rather than the country itself. For example, he did not say anything about Phala Phala on this speech and how that the ANC carried itself in parliament where they defended Ramaphosa. Yeah, sure, he did make a statement previously about it, but right now he has decided to campaign for the ANC. For me, that is extremely hypocritical for Thabo Mbeki to come out publicly campaigning for the ANC. So that means even this criticism of Zuma is a criticism against Zuma simply because he formed a political party. How sensible is that? How really honest is such then a criticism? For me, I can't wait for the day where people criticize one another genuinely and objectively simply because they are patriotic to our country. His criticism here is valid. However, we have to question the timing of the criticism. It is meant to save face for the African National Congress and expose Zuma for the fraud that is. Zuma is fraud. And this ought to have been exposed a long time ago by the African National Congress. The fact that they allowed him to finish his term. Now, of course, you can understand Mbeki's position was a precarious one because, one, he was outvoted by this individual. In Polokwane, he was defeated basically through their democratic processes, right? But the truth of the matter is the ANC was hijacked in Polokwane. That is why you had what Mbeki calls in this very presentation a youth league that had an agenda contrary to that of the ANC. He's literally talking about the EFF there. Just in case you do not understand what he's talking about the EFF there. But I'll make a separate video concerning that, because it's worth to make a separate video. But it's clear, good people, there's no way any reasonably prudent person would consider to vote for MK Party, because now we know, if in case you didn't know, we now know that Zuma went out to destroy this country, the democratic dispensation as we know it. That is why even recently he came out talking about the Constitution of South Africa being a Dutch law. He says we are ruled by a Dutch law, which is ridiculous, seeing that this man was for 9 years a president under such Dutch law. He was elected through a democratic dispensation brought about by the same law, which he is now despising. You know? Nevertheless, I, however, as I've said, find Mbeki's criticism at this time extremely hypocritical, because it is based on salvaging the African National Congress. It is not an objective truth of saying Zuma is this and Zuma did this and this and this, and the ANC comrades allowed him. And the ANC has not cleansed itself of the comrades that facilitated the SARS destruction by Zuma, the destruction of Dinel, the destruction of SAA by sending this woman that was a chairperson of SAA, the destruction of all our state apparatus, including ESCOM, because Mbeki touches on the ESCOM's destruction on this presentation is such that obviously when we make videos and we take somebody else's presentation, we can't take the presentation as is. We take a certain part of the clip to give our comment and an opinion. That's how it becomes a reaction video. Otherwise, I'm going to be making a 3-hour long video here. Nevertheless, you tell me what you think. Those are my views. You tell me what you think. My views are pretty clear. Yes, I agree with him. However, I question the timing, and I see the timing as hypocritical in that it seeks to place MK in a bad light to defend the ANC. For me, both of them, the ANC and MK, are dishonorable. Dishonorable in the sense that Zuma was the president of the ANC when he carried out all these atrocities that are seeking to destroy our country. And the current crop, his ANC comrades, including his deputy, which is now the president in Ramaphosa, they facilitated the process of this destruction. Okay? They didn't oust him. They didn't push him out. There were no pushbacks. There were no saying that, look, you can't do this. You are destroying our democracy. You are destroying our democratic apparatuses. You can't behave like this. None of them did that. Mbeki had nothing to lose save his, what to call, ego for coming, because obviously South Africans would have said it's sour grapes. You know, there are people who are unthinking, who would not look at what Mbeki is saying objectively. For me, the criticism is valid, but I'm simply saying for the fact that he's doing it to defend an ANC, I have a problem with it. But the criticism itself is valid. But the fact that he's doing it to defend the ANC, which he said he wouldn't canvass for me, really, it leaves a lot to be desired, a sour taste in my mouth. Now, I know many South Africans love Mbeki because he was a president of an era that South Africa had an economic growth, significant economic growth that Cosatu says was jobless growth, which is a blatant lie if you consider that from 1994 we had about 8 million jobs, and by the time Mbeki left presidency we had about 14 million jobs. That is 6 million jobs, a significant increase in jobs. Nevertheless, I mean, communists lie, so you shouldn't be surprised by Blaine Nzimande and Zweli Nzimavavi lying through their teeth, calling that a jobless growth. They were simply serving their purpose. Why? Because communists thrive on propaganda. Okay? South Africans simply needed to do their own research. But when you're talking about the comrades who are going to the Congress to vote for a president, there's no way those people are going to vote for the president based on objective truth, because those people are ideologues. That's why Mbeki was ousted in Polokwane. Nevertheless, guys, those are my views, that Thabo Mbeki is shooting here from the hip, his guns blazing, and he's unveiling John Andres's analysis of the different 3 stages in which he categorized the 30 years of democracy. He says the stage 1, which according to him started in 1994 up until 2007. And then he says there's a stage 2 or age 2, which started from 2008 up until 2022. Now he says we are in age 3. The point, though, about all those ages that John Andres' analysis is talking about a positive trajectory from 1994 up until 2007, and then an opposite trajectory from 2008 up until 2022. It's an interesting insight that Dr. Andres is bringing on board, and that's what Mbeki is trying to say here. So whichever way you want to look at what Thabo Mbeki is saying here, objectively he's telling the truth. It has been analyzed by Institute of Race Relations and of course other media, and those of us who were here, were sober-minded, will know that these things are true. What is just disheartening that makes me to criticize him is the fact that he has not come out publicly at the helm of Zuma's nonsense. You get the point? To try to persuade, because a healthy democracy requires a healthy dissent. An organization that does not have a healthy dissent, as the ANC became during Zuma's years, that if you disagreed with Zuma, Like Julius Malema would say, would die for Zuma. If you disagreed with Zuma, you had to be removed from leadership. You had to be purged out. Can you see that? That's no longer a democratic institution. And that is why we are where we are right now. Because those who had the clout, like Mbeki, kept quiet. I believe strongly that if Mbeki had spoken more within the ANC, people would have analyzed some of these statements and said, but wait a minute, why are we tolerating Jacob Zuma when he's taking the ANC in the route in which he's taking it? Can you see that? Observe now, Zuma is not having his way. He's gone out and formed his own political party, which is evidence. Someone could say that is evidence that Zuma was a plant all along in the ANC. Now, am I saying he was a plant? No, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying you could make that argument. Okay? Now, those of you who have listened to my channel long enough, you would know I'm not necessarily a pro-ANC person, but I always try to seek to assess things objectively. Okay, you guys will tell me what you think about it. Ciao, ciao. Bye.